I quit. I told myself, what's the point of trying to make something of myself? I said if losing was an Olympic sport, I would be a gold medalist at it. That's how I saw myself. Was literally this close, millimeters close to taking my own life in 2021. I'm in shock, and I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that it was divine timing.
Welcome to Inspired by Success, the podcast where I deep dive into the mindset of successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and thought leaders. Get ready to be inspired and gain valuable insights to unlock your true potential.
Transform your financial future with this episode sponsored by KE Financial Services.
Today, I've got someone remarkable joining us whose story will leave you inspired. Carlo Taomina is a life coach and speaker, but his journey here is truly inspiring. At rock bottom with depression and homelessness, Carlo had a suicide note written, but a chance event led him to find his new path of purpose and possibility. From his darkest moments, Carlo rose up to now empowering others and sharing how to overcome the impossible. People say his words have saved their lives. Please welcome our special guest, Carlo Taomina, to the show. Welcome to the show, Carlo.
Hey, Linda, thank you so much for having me.
No problems. Tell us about your story and what led you to become the man you are today.
Yeah, it's so funny because, when I tell my story a lot, I never thought I would be the life coach, the mindset guy, the keynote speaker. I just never thought this would ever happen in a million years. So it all kind of started through just my own personal journey. I remember when I was a kid, all I wanted to do was help people. That was just something that was just a natural thing in me. I remember if I saw somebody on the side of the street and, they didn't have much, something inside me would tell them to give them $1. If I saw somebody in need, I would help them. If they fell down, I'd pick them up. I had this natural instinct in me, so I always knew I wanted to help people since a young age. So fast forward until I'm 18 years old, I fell in love with fitness. I just got bitten by the fitness bug. I learned about nutrition, what a proper health plan looks like, and I fell in love with it. I became addicted. So much so, fast forward to in my early 20s, and I had this epiphany. I was like, what if I just combine the two things I care about the most right now, which is fitness and helping people and serving? So I took those two concepts and I married them together, and I thought that was a brilliant idea. So I get my certification to be a personal trainer, and during this time, it's actually COVID, where all the gyms are closed. So I thought it would have been a great idea to actually start an online personal training business because the gyms are closed, no one's going there, but they still want to work out. So I thought it was a brilliant idea to start my own online personal training business and still help people. Now, I remember throughout 2020, specifically during this 1 week right before Christmas, right before my birthday, I like to call it my hell week, right? Where if everything could go wrong, it did go wrong within the matter of 7 days. And it hit me, and I didn't know how to respond to it. So within these 7 days, at the time, I'm not a full-time personal trainer with my business. The gyms are I forget if they're about to close, they restarted, they started to open up again. I forget exactly, but it was still rough, right? So COVID was in the air. People were leaving the gym instead of coming to the gym. And right in this week, I get fired from this job. Now, on top of that, within the same week, I dealt with a very serious back injury. I had a herniated disc in my L5-S1 vertebrae, which was excruciatingly painful. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And it was so bad, there was a point where I just couldn't walk for a period of time. And then to add insult to injury, there was this young lady I was seeing at the time who was, head over heels in love. At least that's what I thought. And she was like, Carlo, we're going to get married. We're going to have kids. We're going to do the whole thing. And she seemed, to be like the one. At least that's what I thought. So I became really invested in this relationship. Well, she calls me in this same week. And I wasn't expecting this, but she was like, hey, I want to break up. And I was completely thrown for a loop. And then to add more salt to the wound, my personal training business I did have was failing miserably. I was losing money. I was spending more money than I was making. I was going into debt. So within a span of 7 days, I get fired, not making any money with my business. I'm in debt. I have a broken back and a broken heart. And
Mm.
I kind of took a step back and looked at my whole life through like a bigger picture. And I just said to myself, what just happened? What did I do to deserve this? Why me? What did I do so bad? And I didn't know how to respond or react to all these events because I was so overwhelmed by it. I got hit from every single direction. So there was a time where I just kind of said to myself, you know what? I quit. Like, I told myself, what's the point of trying to make something of myself, trying to be this entrepreneur, trying to help people if literally nothing I do works? And I would get angry and I got jealous because I would see these like teenage girls on Instagram and TikTok doing these dumb, silly dances, making all this money from these brand deals and whatnot. And I'm sitting here by myself, working my butt off, but like nothing's coming. And I didn't realize this until after I found, my breakthrough. But I realized during this time, subconsciously, I needed this need for significance. I needed this external validation to tell myself I was good enough. Not from people, but I just remember telling myself over and over again before any of these events actually happened. I told myself, oh, if I can start a business, make a bunch of money, become really successful, get the six-pack abs, if I can do these impossible things, then that'll be proof to me I could do anything. Where in reality, that actually meant I thought I wasn't good enough subconsciously, and I needed these things to tell me otherwise. Well, now I'm in this hell week, and I don't know what to do with my life, and all these thoughts and emotions and feelings are coming back, and I realized that every day I was living, that I wasn't living up to my standard of being successful, of being ambitious, of hitting these goals I originally planned for. It took a hit on my ego, and it made me feel worthless because I wasn't living up to who I thought I was, this identity I held for myself. And I felt like a failure. I even called myself a professional loser because I was like, no matter what I do, no matter what I touch, it turns to dust, it turns to rubbish, and I can't figure out why I can't be successful. I can't figure out why I can't do well in life. And I thought it was just like destiny for me to just not do well, not just to be a loser, honestly. I said if losing was an Olympic sport, I would be a gold medalist at it. That's how I saw myself.
Jeez.
And I grew a lot of limiting beliefs about myself. I told myself I was never good enough. I'll never amount to anything. I'm not smart enough, not attractive enough. You name it, I said it. And it was so bad. I just wanted to escape everything. I wanted to escape my thoughts. I didn't want to think. All I wanted to do was sleep all day, just so I wouldn't have to think about anything. And I would try anything to distract myself. I would watch TV, scroll through social media, watch countless of YouTube videos. I would play video games. I would do anything just to not think. But eventually, sometimes these things that I found escape in triggered me as well. Because I would listen to a musician who I really liked, but then I would get jealous that they had the success and I didn't. Or I would see like a child actor on this TV show I was watching, but then I'll get jealous because this person, this little kid, doesn't know what it really means to work hard like I did. And I got into this victim mentality, and I literally laid in bed in 2021 for an entire year because I quit. I didn't see a way out. I felt hopeless. And I thought, I should just clock out. I should just make that one decision you can't come back from. Because I thought, what's the point? I can't do anything. Nothing is going to happen. So I thought that was the best decision, and I cut communication with my family, even though I lived with my parents at the time. So another reason for me to feel great about myself is I lived with my parents in my early 20s. So a guy with a lot of pride, that doesn't really work well. So even when they were living under the same roof as me, I just didn't talk to them. I didn't talk to my siblings. I didn't talk to my friends. I barely ate. I lost 13 pounds. I'm a pretty thin person. Probably you can tell, but 13 pounds lighter is nothing pretty to look at. And all I could do was lay in bed, and go through the same routine every day. And there was this one day, where I thought to myself, you know what, today's the day. I was at that point where I'm about to, go through with it, so to speak.
What, suicide?
But
What go through with what?
with committing suicide,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I was at that point. I was literally this close, millimeters close to taking my own life in 2021. And so, spoiler alert, I didn't. I couldn't go through with it.
Yeah.
I had an extreme panic attack, anxiety attack. I couldn't do it. I was a mess, but I still had this in the back of my head. I was like, oh, it's still going to happen. Maybe not today, but it'll happen tomorrow. Not a question of if, but when. And I still had it inside me. And then one day, this is November of 2021, so we got almost a year. My family says to me, hey, come out to lunch with us. Let's just do something different. Get out of the house. And my immediate response is no, leave me alone. I want to just stay in bed, go without me. Eventually, they kind of broke me down. They talked me into it. So I go out to lunch, and it was the most awkward lunch of my life. My family's sitting around me, but I feel like I'm all alone. I'm not engaging in any conversation. I'm just sitting there on the table, eating my salad, and that's it. Well, towards the end of the meal, my brother says to me, hey, come ride home with me. We're all going to mom's house. Just come ride home with me. So I'm like, okay. We're driving, and then we park in the driveway. And we have like a 10-minute conversation. And this conversation literally put me on the path to finding my breakthrough. So when my brother puts the car in park, he looks at me and he says, okay, man, what are we going to do? How can we help you? Because we thought of everything we can think of. We tried everything, but for some reason it's not working. So tell us, how can we help you? And I told him, there's nothing you can do. If I knew the answer, I would be doing it. I told my brother just to quit, give up, because I already gave up. And he didn't like that answer. He told me, look, I'm your brother, and I would do anything for you. You're my brother. Would you do anything for me? And without hesitation, I said, yeah, of course, we're brothers. I didn't realize that question was a trap, because he was like, okay, well, great. I'm glad you said that. I have a favor I need from you. And I was like, okay, this didn't see that coming. Good job. So I'm like, okay, what's this favor you need from me? Spill it. What do you need? He says to me, I need you to go on a trip. I need you to do something different. Get out of here, because obviously you staying here is not helping. And I thought he was stupid. I was like, you know how hard it was to get out of bed to go out to lunch with you guys? And now you want me to go on a trip? Like no. And then the next thing he said to me really shook me. He said, what do you have to lose? And then I let those words sink in. And I let that question sink in and marinate for a bit. And I thought, honestly, there is nothing for me to lose anymore. I'm at rock bottom. I have nothing else, really. So I thought to myself, what if I took one last leap of faith? What if I, just tried one more time? What would happen? And I don't recommend anyone doing this, but my mindset at the time was saying, if I try this one more time and it doesn't work, I can still clock out early. That was just my mindset at the time. But when he asked me that question, and I'm just, thinking about it, two things came to my mind, and these two things literally put me on the yellow brick road, so to speak, that helped me find my breakthrough. The first thing was I just kept saying to myself over and over again, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I just don't. I want to stay here. I don't want to go. And I just kept saying that over and over again in my head. And I shifted my focus from the life I was living, the guy laying in bed every day, lacking the motivation, having these limiting beliefs, not being fulfilled in his life, to the life I really wanted, which was, the guy who's happy, ambitious, the life of the party. He would take his shirt off if you needed it. He would give you some money for gas if you didn't have it. I just kept thinking about that guy. And then the second thing I did was I imagined I struck a match from a matchbook, and I see this tiny little flame. And this tiny flame is sitting in my gut. And this tiny flame represented the real me. You know, the funny Carlo, the ambitious Carlo, the philanthropist, right? The guy who wants to help people. And even though it was so small, the real me was still down there somewhere. And the more I thought about it, it just kind of kept growing. And then that's where I looked at my brother and I gave him an answer. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And then he got so excited. His eyes lit up. He was like, okay, well, perfect. Where do you want to go? Now, I'm from Virginia in the States here. So in November, depending on what Virginia wants to do, because it's a tricky state, sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold. Around this time, it was a little cold. So I said to my brother, you know what? I want to go somewhere warm. You know, what's the point of going somewhere cold? He says, okay, well, where do you want to go? I just said the first thing that came to my mind. I said, I don't know, Florida. He says, okay, do you want to go alone? Do you want to come with me? What's the deal? I was like, please come with me. I don't want to go alone. I'll probably just like lay in the hotel bedroom every day. He says, okay, well, when would you like to go? And I was like, soon? And he says, okay, don't worry about a thing. I will send you the details tonight. That was a Sunday. Our plane left on a Tuesday. And we're going to West Palm Beach, Florida. Now, neither of us had knew where West Palm Beach, Florida was. We didn't know if it was on the East Coast, the West Coast, North, South, the middle. We didn't know. He literally picked it because it just sounded attractive. That's the only reason why he picked West Palm Beach, Florida. So we land in Florida, and I'm filled with immediate regret. I'm like, why did we come here? Why did I say yes? Why are we in Florida? I just want to go back home. I want to lay in bed, and I'm just miserable the whole time. Well, day 2, same stuff. You know, I'm just complaining. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay in the hotel. And my brother's trying to do some fun stuff, right? He's trying to do some adventure type stuff. Let's go rent a boat. Let's go fishing. Let's go to the beach. Let's rent bicycles. Let's go rent jet skis. Let's do all these things. And I'm like, no, I just don't want to do that stuff. Like, I had no energy whatsoever, mentally or physically. You know, the most exciting thing we had done up to that point was we had gone to a local pharmacy, bought a deck of cards, and played Go Fish in the park. That was the most exciting thing we had done to that point. And I remember on that same day, we're sitting in this on this patio table right outside of this like cafe, and we're just talking, and all of a sudden I see him looking at his phone, and he puts it down. And he says to me, I booked an event for us. I'm not telling you what it is, but you just have to get up and follow me. Don't ask any questions. And I got scared. I was like, what do you mean? You know, are we going to the beach? Are we going to go to some weird nightclub? Are we going to join a cult? Like, what are we going to do? I was getting really fearful and anxious. I was freaking out. And he just says to me, shut up. Don't say anything. Just follow me. And I was like, okay. So we're walking. And all of a sudden, we're at this stoplight. We're about to cross the street, but the light hasn't turned green yet, so we're just waiting. And I'm passing time. I'm just looking around at my surroundings. And then all of a sudden, I see a big building in front of me. And it's the West Palm Beach Convention Center. And then the sign sticking out of the ground right in front of the building, it says, Tony Robbins, unleash the power within. And I was like, wait, what? And I looked at my brother, and he didn't say a word. Now, my brother and I are heavily, involved with personal development. We love Tony Robbins. You know, we've just been people who we've been, I can't even think of the words. We've always been people who want to grow, personal growth, development, self-development. We've just always loved that. So I'm in shock, and I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that it was divine timing. I was supposed to be in this place at this specific location, this time, these days, because neither of me and my brother knew Tony Robbins was there in West Palm Beach, Florida, this week in November.
Wow.
So we're going to this event. Now, initially, I was very skeptical. And for anyone who doesn't know Tony Robbins, like this guy, he has an event room of 10,000 people. And I'm one of these 10,000 people. And I'm sitting in my chair and I'm feeling really scared and really skeptical because I'm just telling myself, I really don't want this experience to be like a concert, or like a vacation type of experience, where you're having fun, you're laughing, you're getting along, but then after it's finished, it's like, okay, well, back to reality. I didn't want that. I'm so glad I was wrong. And it all came from just one moment that led to one decision that led me to take one step of action that got me on a plane to land in Florida, because it's like I was meant to go here to this event. And when I did, I found my purpose. I found my happiness. I found the real Carlo again. I found what was really important in life. I started looking inward instead of looking for things externally. And when I came to this realization, I had this light bulb moment. And I said to myself, wow, this is what I'm meant to do. I felt like I had this telepathic communication with the universe. It was like, Carlo, you felt this lack of motivation, these limiting beliefs about yourself. You said you weren't good enough. You said you weren't fulfilled in life. Well, this is what you're going to do to help people. Just like you're going to help people just like the way you were. And that's what you're going to do. So ever since that day, that's what I've dedicated my life to. I transitioned my business from personal training to life coaching. I became a keynote speaker. I've been doing keynotes for my high school. I've done keynotes for Fortune 500 companies. Like, I've been coaching people one-on-one, and it's just so fulfilling because I'm helping people just like who I was. And when I see their eyes light up, whether I'm on stage or in a conference room, or even through a Zoom call with a client, and I see their eyes light up and they find this transformation within themselves, it's like I'm going through that experience all over again. And I realized that this whole thing, that whole year of 2021, did not happen to me. It happened for me. And I realized that it was a blessing. And from that blessing, I've been able to help people every day.
Wow, that's an incredible story. Let's just take it back, because while you're telling me that story, and I know people that have been in that negative mindset, that's self-limiting, that dark energy place, no motivation. But I just want to know, where did that come from? Was that part of your upbringing? There's a lot of people I hear on podcasts, they talk about how, these limiting beliefs come from their upbringing. Did you have a good upbringing, or did that negativity develop over time, and the mind's like, all that's negative self-talk, did that just come after all these events?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I had a great upbringing. I had an amazing family, amazing support system. It was just something that developed in me throughout time. When I was even younger, like, there were just these times where I was just like, yeah, I'm just not good enough, but they weren't so strong. But as I developed, as I became later on a teenager, I've always been pretty confident. But towards that time, when I was in my early 20s, like, it just slowly started to decline because it was taking a hit at my own identity. I told myself I'm super ambitious, successful, but when I wasn't seeing that externally, it was like I was lying to myself. And I was like, wow, maybe I am not this successful, wise person I thought I was. And then I started to develop the beliefs. And then throughout time, they got bigger, they got bigger. And then when it led to that hell week, it's like, okay, that's it. It's game over.
Wow. It's fascinating, because your story, like, I'm just trying to help others going through the same circumstances that you went through. So what's the first step for someone struggling with depression? How do they change that mindset, and what do they need to start doing in order to shift from, especially when you got to that point where you're suicidal and you're in such a dark phase? What's the first thing you can do to shift that around? Like, I know that the event changed you, but what if someone can't go to an event? What do they need to tell themselves internally and in their minds to be able to get out of that dark place?
Of course, and honestly, I don't think, like, you don't need to go to Florida to find a breakthrough. You don't need to go to an event. You don't need, certain things. I just happened to be there at the right place at the right time. I just think that was what was meant for me. But I would recommend the first thing people do is they need to come to an understanding and know that it's possible. Like, when you're depressed, when you're suicidal, like, that's not your story. That's just a part of the story. And I know that might sound cliche, but honestly, it's the God honest truth. It's just a certain part of your life. It's not your entire life. And once people actually believe that they can overcome these struggles and feel like themselves again and live up to their true potential, once they believe that, that's giving themselves permission to actually try something new, to change their environment, to do something different. And once they have that belief, then they're going to be more acceptable. Now, the next thing I would say, and this is something that really helped me, this is something that honestly was like a certain exercise, honestly, that helped save my life. And it was the understanding that any emotion we experience is physical. So when you're feeling joy, like any type of emotion, you're going to experience a certain reflection from your body language. So what I understood is that when I was feeling really angry, depressed, sad, fearful, I realized that my body language was my head was pointed down, tilted down, my shoulders were rounded forward. I wasn't speaking clearly, I wasn't enunciating, I wasn't even moving. And I laid in bed for a year. And once you kind of ask yourself that question of, oh, what do I do when I'm feeling this way? You're probably laying down on the couch, you're laying down in bed, you're not moving, you're kind of like in the fetal position, right? And I understood that that was only adding fuel to the fire to my negative emotions. Because I understood is that is sending a signal to my brain, right? Of it's literally telling me how I feel based on my body language. So what I did was I did the exact opposite. I would jump up and down. I would do jumping jacks. I do this every morning, Linda. It's part of my morning routine. I come in here in my office because if I do it in the bedroom, my fiance would get furious at me. Is I take my headphones and I play the most exciting electric song on my playlist. I know it might sound silly, but the purpose behind it is that when I'm moving at a radical pace, when I'm moving as fast as I can for an extended period of time, for like a minute or two, I'm changing my physiology. And when I'm changing my physiology, I'm literally, this is like scientifically proven, I'm literally sending a signal to my brain that's telling me I feel happy. And it's actually producing and releasing serotonin in my brain. And not only am I in a state where I feel better, but I'm in a state where I can make better decisions. Because if you ask yourself, oh, that one time I didn't make a good decision, well, what state were you in? Were you angry? If you're angry and you're in the car and there's traffic and somebody cuts you off, you're probably cursing at that person in front of you. You're probably giving them the middle finger. You're probably honking your horn. Probably not the best decisions to make. But when you're in a better state, you're able to make better decisions. So literally what I would do to first get into the best state is I need to move my body. Because it was so funny, what I think about is, and I ask this question to people when I'm doing keynotes, is have you ever seen an angry dancer? And I'm pretty sure the answer is no.
Yeah.
Because, or I would feel really bad if somebody's dancing their heart out and they're completely angry.
Yeah.
But it was such a light bulb moment for me, and that's what I started to do. So the first things I would recommend for somebody to do if they are feeling this hopelessness, they lack this fulfillment, they don't have motivation to get up out of bed. First, it's believing that they can overcome this. And once they have this belief that they can do it, just like I did, just like so many other people, that's giving themselves permission. And if they want to feel differently instantly, they need to change their body language. Because once they do that, they're completely changing the physiology. They're in a different state, and now they can make better decisions.
Wow. So limiting beliefs is one thing too. But do you think support network is something? Because when you talked about your story, you know, your family would have tried to encourage you. They don't want you to be in bed all day, but obviously you would have just shoo them away, go away. But what can others do for somebody who knows somebody that's going through what you went through? How can we be more supportive of a person that's going through those experience, like negative stuff? Do they have to wait? Like, is it in their own due time that they should be ready? But your brother helped you get out of it too, you see. And if you let them do it alone, that can spiral, that negativity can spiral even worse, like what happened with you. So how can someone be a better support system for someone who they know is going through depression and going through suicidal thoughts?
I would say if you are the family member, friend of somebody who is going through this dark time, I would just say just be there for them. Don't give up on them. Because I was very blessed to have my family who always wanted to help. Now, I'm not going to lie. There were some times where my family got mad. Not necessarily mad at me, even though that's like how it felt, because they were directing this negative energy and these words to me. I knew that they were mad at the situation, that they're trying so hard, but for some reason nothing's working. And trying so hard and not being able to control the outcome, of course it can make anybody angry. You know, my mom, my dad, like everyone in my family, they just got mad, not at me, even though it felt like that sometimes, but they're mad at the situation. But what I would say is don't give up on that person who is going through it and you are not. Don't give up on them. Just give them time. Because that's what, I mean, it took me a year, you know. At least that's from my perspective. And another thing I would say also is you don't have to have the answers. Sometimes you don't even need to speak. What I could say from somebody who's been through it is sometimes, because of course I didn't want to talk, even if it was about another subject, because I know it's like, oh, we're just ignoring the elephant in the room. Sometimes I just wanted somebody just to sit next to me, not say a word. We can just watch a movie together. That company was comforting to me. So if you are that somebody who is the support system for somebody who's going through this dark time, just be there. And that can go a long way.
I love that. It's very useful. Let's talk about personal growth as well. How did you rebuild a positive internal voice after all that negative self-talk? Can you share, like, what's the first things that you started to change in terms of the self-talk as well? Because all that negativity has to flip. And to have the change that you have now, I'm guessing that you have a lot of self-awareness, for one, because you're listening to what you're saying. And do you listen when you hear because there's always going to be some negative incident that trigger some negative self-talk. So what's the first thing that you can do to rebuild that voice after all that negative self-talk as well?
Of course. The first thing I would definitely say is just perspective. How are you, or what is the angle that you're looking at the situation with? Because if I flip myself upside down, you're going to look very different to what you look like right now. So it's just how are you looking at the situation? So, for example, if something unfavorable happens to me, and negative things, unfavorable things, they're going to happen to us regardless. But it's how do we accept this information? How are we going to label it? 99.9% of us, and again, no one's perfect, I do it sometimes too, is when something negative happens, we then immediately associate it with, it's so negative, and it just ruined my day, and then we create a story about it, and then it ruins our day, it ruins our week, it can get really bad. But what I do now is just, what perspective am I looking at it from? What angle am I looking at it from? Am I looking at it as if, why is this always happening to me? Oh, of course this happened to me. Just my luck. Now how I look at things is, regardless of how good or bad the situation is, I ask myself, what can I learn from this? How can I spin this and make it positive? How can I get a blessing from this experience? How can I grow from this? And it's almost like a game, because I'm legit actively trying to find something that will serve me versus letting life happen to me. I'm not going to let life live me. I'm going to live life. So what can I do to make the best out of this situation? How can I make this situation help me and benefit me? And another thing I would say too is that when we have this negative self-talk, especially with limiting beliefs, because this happens all the time, this happens to me all the time, is I still have these limiting beliefs that says, oh, Carlo, you're not good enough. Who are you to be a life coach? Who are you to speak on stage and help these people? But what I do is I literally take my limiting belief and I just sit with it. I'll write it down. I'll see it. I'll look at it. And then I'll take a few minutes writing why my limiting belief is wrong. And I'll go on a tangent. I'll write until I get exhausted. I'll write why my limiting belief is wrong. And to help support my claim, I'm going to look for evidence. So what I'll do, and what really nails it in for me, is I don't just think about my experience, I relive it. It's almost like a meditative exercise. So what I'll do is I'll close my eyes, And I will go back to any of these moments where, let's say, for example, I tell myself I'm a failure, I'm not good, I'm a loser, whatever the case may be. I would go back to moments from my past that are the exact opposite. Moments where I felt successful, moments where I felt confident, moments where I accomplished something. And I will relive these moments as if they're happening again. And it's changing it in my body, my physiology, and I'm feeling it, and I'm reliving it, and it's making me feel amazing. So that's one way that I do to destroy my limiting beliefs. And once you do a couple of things like this, different exercises, change your perspective, how's the situation going to help me? You're going to see actually, you are in a much different position than where you currently are or used to be. And that's how I see life now. That's the lens I look through. And I would say, based on the two versions of myself, the guy now versus the guy 2-3 years ago, I can tell the one you're speaking to today is definitely in a much better position.
Beautiful. I love that. You're going back and reliving it. Can you talk about visualization for personal growth? Do you use visualization tools to help you with the future you? Because you've looked back on the previous you and all your accomplishments, but what about the visualization for the future you and what goals that you want to achieve and where you want to be in life?
Of course, I use visualization every single day, not only to stack positive emotions, positive feelings, and relive amazing moments from my life to make me feel amazing and fulfilled, but I also do it for goals. So what I learned through visualization is that not only does it feel real, because essentially it is real, because your brain does not know the difference between imagination and reality. So when you're visualizing a certain goal happening, your brain is perceiving it as real. So therefore, it's giving yourself permission to actually attract this. So when I think of a goal, I think of it very specifically. I visualize it, how I'm feeling, how I'm breathing, how I'm celebrating this win. And I actually visualize the goal of me achieving it already. I don't see myself working at it continuously. I see myself achieving it. And I'm very specific. And the reason why I'm specific, the reason why I'm so clear on my goals is because I like to think of it as if I'm an archer. If I have a goal, if I have a target to aim for, I know I'm going to be in line with it. I'm going to hit it. But if I just say I want to make $1 million, but I don't have a specific aim, I don't have anything clear, or I don't have any clarity about it, then it's probably not likely for me to achieve this goal. So once I'm clear, specific, then it's almost like I'm reverse engineering it. I see what I want, I visualize what I want, and then from this end goal, it's like, okay, well, if you want this, if you want to achieve this, you have to do this step first, and then this step before that, and then yada, 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 to at which point you're reverse engineering the process, and you have a game plan to actually achieve this goal. So not only are you visualizing it, accepting it, making it feel real because it is when you visualize it, but now you're giving yourself a game plan to do so.
I love that. Yes, I do the same techniques too, using visualizations, but visualizations without a plan is just like a dream. And so you definitely have to work towards that goal as well. Let's talk about entrepreneurship. So I'm curious to know, how's your mindset evolved from business failures now to succeeding and doing what you're doing? You sound like you're having a more fulfilling life, helping others as well. But how has your mindset evolved since then?
Yeah, so my mindset, especially as entrepreneurs, I was so outcome oriented because none of us want to work, if we're entrepreneurs, none of us want to work the 9-to-5 job. We don't want to work for a boss. We want to be the boss. We want to write our own rules and live our own lives. So, and we want it to happen as fast as possible. That's just the nature of it. But the trap I fell into, and I think a lot of people fall in this trap as well, is that we become so outcome oriented, we kind of lose sight on what's really important within the business. I mean, we got in business for a reason. And especially if you are in the service business to help people, to coach people, to mentor people, the main thing is to do just that, is to help people. Now, for me, in my own experience, even though that was my driver, the scales were not balanced properly because I was so focused on, I need to do this full time, I need to make this money, I need to do this so I can live this, make the $10,000 months like I see on Instagram all the time. I need to do this. And I was so focused on the outcome. And as an entrepreneur, of course, it's easy to kind of fall into that. But the mindset I'm in now is, how can I serve somebody? How can I help somebody? How can I improve their life? Because one thing I've learned, and I've taken note of it, and it's ingrained in my brain now, is if you want to get whatever you want, you need to help somebody else get what they want. So every day when I wake up, I say this internally, is how can I help somebody today? What is something I can do to serve somebody today? Regardless if I get a client or not, if I have a coaching call or not, maybe all my coaching calls are on one day, and then today, I'm doing podcasts, I'm maybe not doing so much helping somebody in specific. How can I help somebody? And when you get in line with why you're actually in business, who you want to help, who you want to serve, and it's heart-centered, that's where the results externally will come up. But when you're always focused on the outcome, that's where you're least expected to achieve it.
I like that. And can you give advice for other entrepreneurs? How can we stay motivated despite setbacks? I mean, there's always going to be a lot of setbacks in business. And if you're just say for the service business, if you don't get your targets and whatnot, how do you stay motivated yourself when there are setbacks?
Of course. And so I experience them a lot, even at this stage, is sometimes I'll even get burnt out because I'm just doing this work. It's routine sometimes, sometimes you're not seeing results. So it's like, okay, well, why do I keep doing this if I'm not seeing any results? For me, in my experience, what helps me get motivation is understanding why I started it in the first place. And that might be a cliche answer, but honestly, it's a cliche for a reason. It's because it's true. I got into this business to be a life coach, a peak performance coach, a keynote speaker, is because I want to help the Carlo from 2 to 3 years ago. And every time I'm done with a coaching call, every time I'm done speaking and I have people approach me, and when their eyes light up and when they say, wow, this changed me. Wow, I am not the same as I was 3 months ago when we started this coaching program. I feel so much better. That is my why, is to help people. And if I'm not having a good week, good month, whatever the case may be, I go back to the reason why I started this. And that is my fuel. That is my fire. So when I'm having an off day, I go back to these moments where it fills me with so much joy, fulfillment, energy, and it puts me right back on track. So I would suggest anyone who has this lack of motivation, they're questioning why they should do this in the first place, go back to the moment where you originally wanted to become an entrepreneur, and it's going to reignite that flame in you.
Wow, that's very powerful. And I'm sure you've impacted a lot of people on stage with that story as well. It's a very impactful story. Can we talk about life balance and work-life balance as well? So what's your advice for work-obsessed high performers to find better balance? Because, successful people are often driven. You can see Elon Musk, he works multiple hours, but, whether or not he has the role of a great father is another thing, a role of a great husband. Do you know what I mean? Like when people are super successful, they focus on that goal, where a lot of the things get neglected, such as your health, your family, your relationships, sometimes wealth. Like, tell us, how do you find a better balance, especially for the high performers?
Yeah. And it's so funny you say that, because I consider myself a high performer, but I know when to stop, because I've been on that side of the spectrum where I'm just working, and all of a sudden it's 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, oh gosh, where did the time go?
Yeah.
And especially when I was there and when I encounter people who are there now, again, it's this lack of fulfillment that comes up because they keep working, and then all of a sudden the relationships are not improving. They're not being a good father or mother. They're not being happy. And now it's like the only thing that gives them purpose is just to keep working. And that work might not even be fulfilling, and they're just doing this routine every day. It's so funny because I had a conversation with somebody a couple weeks ago, and he was in that boat exactly. He didn't have work-life balance. And not only that, though, but he just felt unfulfilled. And he was telling me, oh, maybe I should buy a new car. I'll buy a Porsche. Or maybe I'll buy a new house. And then I was like, well, is that going to fulfill you? Is that going to fill that hole? And he's like, honestly, no. But all he would do is just work, because he knew nothing else. And that's the only thing he could do to stop himself from thinking. And that's just another thing that really has an impact regarding work-life balance. What I would suggest is you need to understand your values. You need to understand what's really important. Obviously, business is important, but is it more important than your health? If it is, well, how long do you think you're going to be in business? If your health dwindles down, you're not going to be here long enough to run your business.
Yeah.
How much do you value your relationships with your family, with your friends, with your children if you have children, right? I know for a fact I'm not a father yet, but when I am, I want to be there every day for my kids, to help them grow, to help to experience these experiences, because time goes by fast. And I want to be here for these moments. So once you understand what your values are, what's really important to you, it's almost going to be a self-illuminating path to be like, okay, I want X, Y, and Z for my relationships, my family, my health, my mental health, physical health. I know I need to do X, Y, and Z, and these are my non-negotiables. And then the business revolves around that. Not my personal life revolves around my business. And when people make that switch, that's where it's going to be a lot clearer for people.
Yeah, I totally agree. Very powerful message there. Let's talk about health as well. What habits help you stay physically and mentally energized? And, what are your daily rituals that you can't live without?
Yeah, of course. So I mentioned a little bit of my morning routine, but I can definitely speak about it more in depth. So in the morning, for my routine specifically, is I'll come in here and I'll do what I like to call get into a peak state, which is what I mentioned. I'm just moving my body. I'm changing my physiology. That's the first thing I do. I don't look at my phone, my emails, Facebook. I don't look at any of that BS. I come in here and I get myself right. And then the next thing I do is I prime myself to get ready for the day. Because if we have one thing in the day, especially in the morning, that isn't so favorable, it almost sets the tone for the whole day. And it can either make or break it, right? And you'll feel like, oh, my day is already ruined and it's only the morning time. What I do is I do this meditation. It's called priming. And I literally stack positive emotions, positive feelings, positive experiences for about 10-15 minutes just to prime myself to get ready for the day. And then after I'm done with that, I journal. I write down what I'm going to do for the day, how I feel currently, what the day's going to look like. And then I'll go to the gym because I need to be physically fit. I need that, not only because I love it, but I know it's essential to be the high performer I am and want to continue to be. And I think as far as when the day is over, I journal again because I write down not only the experiences I had in that day, but I'm counting my wins for that day, regardless of how big or how small. I'm counting my victories because, one, that's making me feel much more confident. That's going to boost your confidence because you're going to say to yourself, wow, I went to the gym today. I closed a deal today. I recorded a podcast today, whatever the case may be. When you write your wins, not only are you feeling more confident, but you're kind of rewiring your brain to look for victories as opposed to looking for everything that you failed on today. Look at all your setbacks, all the negativity, because that's how we're naturally wired right now. So if I can rewire my brain to simply look for victories and positive things, that's where I'm going to see more of. And I think those are just a few of the things that I do that really help me with my physical health and mental health and keeps me on track.
Oh, beautiful. What does success personally mean to you? How would you define success?
Ooh, how I would define success is if you are truly fulfilled and you are happy. If you are just doing what you love to do, regardless of how much money you make, right? Now, of course, in the position I'm in, I just want to help people and I love it. I wake up every day doing this. I'm on a podcast right now. You know what I mean? I feel like once you are happy with the people around you and you're doing what you love, nothing else really matters. The money in your bank account doesn't matter. If you got food in the fridge, a roof over your head, I think life's pretty good. So that's how I would define success.
That's beautiful. Have you also got any books or mentors that have made a massive impact on your life and helped you as well, besides Tony Robbins?
A book that I read recently, actually, and this is the first time I actually read this book, and people are going to be shocked, but I'm so glad I read it, is The Alchemist. That book refortified this belief I have that if you stay on the path, you're going to be fine. Like, you have this amazing destiny ahead of you. Just keep going. That's all you have to do, right? Just follow your heart, follow your intuition, and you're going to be led to your treasure, so to speak. That's how it says it in the book. And then another book I would say is As a Man Thinketh. That book, I think written by James Allen, if I'm not mistaken. You can read it in like 30 minutes. But that book was written so long ago, but it's so true today. And the main story of that book is you experience the life you focus on. You become what you focus on. So if you focus on negativity, that's what you're going to get. If you focus on positivity, blessings, that's what you're going to get also. So I would say those two books are really, really powerful.
Wow. I'm going to definitely check out that. Somebody else has recommended As a Man Thinketh, so I definitely have to have a look at that. Let's visualize something. So you're on your deathbed. What would you be the most proud of in life and after all the experiences that you've had?
The thing I'd be most proud of is my courage, because courage doesn't mean I'm fearless. It means I have a lot of fear, but I'm still going to take action, because a lot of people make decisions because of fear and they want to play it safe. So they'll get the safe job. They won't start the business. They won't chase their dreams. And that, to me personally, it led me to unfulfillment. For me, if I were on my deathbed right now, the happiest thing I would say to myself, the biggest accomplishment I would say is I took risks. I was courageous. I followed my heart and I followed my passion and my dreams. And you know what? It paid off.
I love it. That's so beautiful. And life's too short, so we got to live it to the fullest. And I love it. Yeah.
Amen.
Beautiful. Finally, where can people connect and find you?
Of course, people can find me on my Instagram. That is Carlo Taomina _life coach. You know, I would love to know if you really like this episode. And in fact, if I may, and please, you know, if it's a no-no, let me know. But I want to help people, of course. Obviously, the listeners can tell how passionate I am about this stuff. But if somebody really resonated with this episode and they want to dive deeper, I would love to offer a free discovery call, no strings attached. You can just DM me the words "inspired by success," just so I know you came from this podcast. I'd really love to help and connect with you, and you can find me there.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Carlo. It was very lovely hearing your story.
Thank you so much, Linda. I love this. It's a perfect way to end my night. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to connecting with you further.
Thank you.